Welcome everyone to the last webinar for the year. Can you believe it? How time flies. And thank you so much for so many of you taking time out of your busy schedule, because I realise it's only a couple of days until the end of the crunch time with the BAS lodgement. So good on you for prioritising working on your business. And we know that working out how this Xero Practice Manager works is a hot topic, and discussing anything to do with practice management software, there's been lots of threads on our community page. So as we're going through this webinar tonight, click on the link, make sure you've got PB Central opened, and click on the link in the announcement that says share your win, and that will bring up the resource where the video, the recording of this webinar will be tomorrow. And scroll down to the bottom and share a win that you've had this month. And this is also where you'll be posting any questions that you'll have. We're going to be doing it like this every month, and that means that all the questions will be contained within the resource rather than separated from the resource on the chat box. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Katrina Arsman for making herself available. Thank you, Katrina. Katrina started her journey. I'll just give a bit of background here. Started her journey similar to many of us, really. With the birth of her daughter, she left the corporate world and took on some casual bookkeeping roles and continued these small jobs until she realised it was time to get serious. With the children at secondary school, it was time to put more energies into her business and return to more accounting style work. So she moved out of her home office and began the serious business of growing her empire, as her friends referred to it. She started her business in 2000 and had a substantial business when she became a licensee in 2011. Xero was her preferred software, and she developed admin and management systems using XPM. That, combined with the systems in the pure bookkeeping system, enabled her to grow her business to red belt. And she did that with 4 to 5 staff, which is quite an achievement. Earlier this year, she sold her business for $1 of turnover, which is really inspirational for everyone watching this webinar. So congratulations, Katrina. And started Bookkeepers HQ to offer support and practical solutions for every growing bookkeeping business by providing workshops and mentoring, which Katrina will tell you more about at the end of the webinar. Welcome, Katrina, and thank you so much for taking time to introduce XPM to us. Over to you now.
Thanks, Debbie, and thanks for inviting me to be guest speaker and show a bit about Xero Practice Manager, which I've loved using in my business and setting up the systems. So what we're going to cover today, firstly the benefits of Xero Practice Manager, client profile. We'll look at a client profile which can be your client manual that you can put into Xero Practice Manager. We'll look at the jobs so that we can set them up from our session checklists and our review checklists. We're going to use job states to track your work so that we can manage the BAS workflow. And then we're going to look at some hints and tips of where to start in setting up the Xero Practice Manager. And then I've got an offer at the end for licensees for our workshops. So the benefits of Xero Practice Manager, firstly, is to customize your business in the way that you want to, that works for you. So you can customize fields, jobs, templates. You know, there's a lot within Xero Practice Manager that we'll even look at today that you can customize. It's an online software, so we all know the advantages of that it's remote, accessible from any computer, anywhere, at any time. We can track the staff, what the jobs that they're doing, and also their timesheets and the workflow throughout the office, so you can see where things are up to. It's also a common area for communication, so all of your emails or notes, anything to do with a client, anything to do with the jobs, are all in the one location. So if you log into Xero Practice Manager, you can see what staff have communicated on a job, and you can answer it within there as well. So it's all in one common area. We can also invoice directly from Xero Practice Manager, which synchronises into Xero if you use that as your accounting software. And then the customer payments that happen in Xero will also synchronise back into Xero Practice Manager. So let's jump in and have a look at the client profile. I'll just bring across my demo. Okay, so I'll just go into the client database and just open up one of the clients that I've created. And you can see here that we can start creating our client manual right within the Xero Practice Manager. So I've got headings here: compliance, IT information, service requirements. These are just examples of what you can use. So within a compliance heading, you can add all of the information that is common to all of your clients. So you can record whether they're registered for GST, who lodges the BAS, the cycle, if it's cash or accrual, any information that you need to gather that is common information for all clients. The beauty of this...
Katrina, they could use some of the headings from the new client details form, couldn't they, which is really pretty much what we gather. So they could create the headings based on that information in there, couldn't they?
That's right. So the templates that that you've created can be entered into Xero Practice Manager. So it's all consistent, and that's the beauty of it, that you've got PVs, templates, and the information, and then just make it all consistent for all clients in Xero Practice Manager, and it's just makes it so much easier. And the beauty of this is, for example, BAS lodged by this bookkeeping business, that you can actually make a report for all of the BASs that you personally lodge yourself. You can do a report on all the IAS clients. So whatever field is in Workflow Xero Practice Manager, you can build a report around. You can see how it's going to be useful for your bookkeepers, that they can access it from anywhere. So that if they're out at a client, they don't need to traipse around with the client manual or get onto any computer, like Google Drive or wherever your stuff is kept, or take around the paperwork, the Word document. So it's all within an online program. And I find that the bookkeepers open up Xero Practice Manager as one of their first things that they do when they start work, so they have the information at hand. So I used to get asked by my bookkeepers constantly which version of MyOb was these clients in and what was the password, and they're too lazy to pull out the folder. So if this is opened up first thing, then they've got the information at hand. So it's just, it's just a common area for everything. We can then add our contact details onto this client profile. So obviously we're going to have the client's details, the owners of the business. We can put in the accountant contact details. There's other contacts that we might like to capture, like their mentor or their business advisor or bank managers, anybody that you might communicate with, we can add contacts there. Now, if I just briefly show how it can be edited to give you an idea of what the options are for each one of these fields. So if I jump into the compliance heading, and you can see here I have in the BAS cycle, I've already set the Xero Practice Manager up so that it's got drop-down boxes for whatever cycle, for example, that they want here. When you are creating these custom fields, you can add in a text field, a tick box, a multi-line box, even a hyperlink to a website. So it just makes it so much easier if you set it up properly the first time, and then you've got all of this, easy access. Okay, so within a client, you can also access their jobs. So this is really just an access point to their jobs. So if you're looking at what their current jobs are, and then you would also get a history of all the jobs that have been completed. If we open up the notes The notes I also use to put a lot of the client manual information in, or you can do like WorkSafe logins, your superannuation login, so you've got, you know, the username, password, details in there. And I also used it to put in the POYGI, so each BAS, I'd have an admin girl get onto the BAS portal and find out what the income tax instalment is for that quarter and enter it into the client's notes. So the bookkeeper has that information when they're preparing the BAS. So they don't need to open up a portal, they don't need to ask somebody, they don't need to get a copy of, you know, the BAS. It's all in there. And again, bookkeepers can access this from anywhere. So that gives you an idea of how a client profile can be set up. Okay, so we'll go across into the jobs manager. So this is where we start creating all of our jobs. You can see here I've already set up some jobs in here. Here we can see job numbers, the name of the job, and the state of the job. I'll just quickly show this. This is where we can allocate the state of the job as it passes through your workflow. So this is from Deb's BAS schedule. So you've got BAS summary, authority sent, it's signed, sent to the ATO, etc. So we'll look at that a bit more. Yeah, it just makes it so much easier when we want to report on what's still to be done and what's been lodged, etc. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we go along tonight as well. And then obviously the dates, the start date and the due date of the jobs. Okay, so I'm going to just open up this job here. We'll have a look in it. So we can put a description in here, and that can lead into the invoice. You can choose to do that or not. The category we put down, I've just got bookkeeping staff, so that job category links into your profit and loss. So my profit and loss had about 8 or 10 income line items. So for bookkeeping work, it went to a bookkeeping line item, and I had a distinction between bookkeeping staff and bookkeeping principal, just to see how much work I actually did in the business, which wasn't a lot, and also link it to a charge out rate as well. And the BAS jobs would have a BAS review category, so then you'd have a BAS review line item in your profit and loss. So you can start to find out where your greatest income is coming from, and where, you know, you might see training is only like $2,000, and you think, well, you could do a hell of a lot more training, so you can pump up that side of your business. So the scheduling information gives you your start and close date of a job. So this is for the month of October, so that's the dates that I've decided for the month of October. You can allocate your staff. You've got account managers and managers, so you've got supervisors, and then your staff, you can allocate multiple staff. Milestones you can use as reminders, so if you need to remind yourself that in a week's time you've got to email the client to get more information, then you can create a new milestone within that. Milestones can also email you that notification.
That's really useful, and the part that I think in the Pure Bookkeeping system on the session checklist, there is a space there for future, it's actually called for future action, and that was designed because of, for this purpose, to actually remind you the next time you open up the checklist what it was that you are going to do or needed to do in this session. But I really like this milestone function as well.
Yeah. Then with every job you need at least one task. So within this data processing for October, I've got the session checklist, and then you can just build your session checklist down here. So these are called your to-do lists within your session checklist. So the ones in capitals, this is an example of what you can do. The capital ones are the subheadings within the session checklist. So aged payables, for example, is one of the subheadings. and then you've got enter outstanding bills and stuff like that. And bank rec is another subheading within the session checklist, and then you're just saying reconcile all these things. So you can see how much level of detail that you can go to. The alternative is that you can just choose to say refer to session checklist and just have one line there. In my experience, I like to have the detailed checklist so that the girls would start ticking off what they had done, what they were up to. So if any time the job needed to be finished and the staff weren't around, or there was any question of how far along we are, I could actually log into the job and find out what was done and what was not done. And if I needed to push it through, another staff member could pick it up and do the rest of it. So it's really handy for that. You can estimate the time for that job. So I've got 2.5 hours to complete this particular job, and then as the time builds, like the staff can put their time to it, you can see what's in terms of the budget for this job.
That's really helpful to
and then I had another,
Katrina, isn't it? Because we often say, sorry.
Sorry, what helpful?
It's helpful to set expectations for the bookkeeper, and I always say that you never give a new bookkeeper a new client. You have to know how long that job is going to take and make it clear to them of what that is, because if it blows out without that conversation, then there's a problem.
That's right, and that was one of the common things with my staff, is that they didn't know how long it should take them. So, for example, a BAS review should take less than 2 hours. So if they took longer than that, well, then part of it is actually fixing figures. It's not just doing a review. Now, just up the top here, I'll go and click into the notes. So further to the milestones, you can actually say what the other matters are. So I've got a subheading here, or a note here, other matters attended to. So these are extra things. This note is actually about what extra things that the bookkeeper had to do. So, for example, she reviewed an extra 100 invoices.
Yes, and that also, Katrina, is one of the points that I can see how you're incorporating the session checklist into Xero Practice Manager, because it is important to, although a job might take 2.5 hours, there may be extraordinary and unusual tasks that the bookkeeper has to complete, like talking to the ATO or setting up super funds, and we've got that space in the session checklist. So you're just demonstrating how to incorporate that, which is really handy.
Yeah, that's right, and it's a good communication area. So if they're awaiting information, so they've done as much as their job as they can, they've sent out a client to advise transaction list to the client, they're waiting for that. They can add a comment to that when they get it back. Receive response, whatever, all good, or whatever, leaving such and such to the next month, or whatever notes are. But you can see how the communication is really clear and easy to access. So I really liked that area. You can add a document to this area as well, to this job. So it could be your BAS authority signed. You could put it there. You might want to discuss whether that's the most efficient way for your business, to highlight it there. But yeah, lots of documents you can put there. Now, with these notes as well, you can set it up that your supervisor, whoever's looking after this job, or if you've got a junior bookkeeper and somebody else reviewing it, maybe yourself, you can get an email sent to yourself to say what the notes were. So I would be added to every one of the jobs, and if I got notes from the staff, I would just glance over it and say, yeah, not for me, not for me, not for me. I don't need to deal with anything, and they'd get to the point where they'd go KA to attend. So then I'd look at anything that was highlighted for KA to attend. They're the only ones that I'd look at. Within the job, you can also change the state. So this is the ideal place to change it. They've finished the job. They can push it through to, VAS summary now. So that, and that again, that would be emailed to the supervisor or to yourself, that job is gone to that point, so now you can push it to the client. Within here, within the job, ideally they would add their timesheet as well, so they would select the staff that they were, the tasks that they've just done, session checklist, they've spent an hour doing it, and then again they would make a note here of not what they've done, but anything out of the ordinary, like if they did have to review or speak to the ATO, as Deb said, speak to ATO. So this comes through on your invoicing, so you know that they've spent extra time doing that, or they've done this extraordinary task that you need to invoice for. So it's not just what they've done, it's about what needs to be added to the invoice. So you just train the staff in that way. I've gone through that. Yeah. Okay. All right. So that's the job set up and how you can treat it. Okay. So we'll go across to the settings, job settings. And just quickly look at the states that we've set up. So you can see how you can move the work through the office. So they all start as planned, and then when you've received the bookwork, you can go to that, although you might not start the job, but you've got the bookwork. So if a staff member is awaiting information, can't move any further with their jobs that they've got, you can actually see that, well, you've got so-and-so's bookwork, that other staff member's not ready to do it, so you allocate it to that, to another staff member. It just gives you an idea where the work is up to and what's going on. Job template, so you can set up a job. I'll just go into the VAS preparation checklist. So this is a template of a common job that you're going to be doing. So we'll name it such, VAS preparation and lodgement. If we click into here, it will have all of the to-do list already there. So all you need to do when you're creating a new client is allocate this template to that client. You don't need to re-enter all of the to-do list. The beauty of this is also that you can recur the job, and I'll show you where you can see that in a minute. I got to the point where I did create a VAS for each client because there could have been particular things you needed to do for different clients. The same with the session checklist. They're all particular to the client. You wouldn't have a common checklist for everybody. So I would save the template for each client and put the client name on the template. Okay, so if we go and look at the reports, so the reports in Workflow Max are very flexible. There's quite an extensive array of just common financial reports that you can pull up, as you can see there, and then there's a fantastic report builder where you can actually build a report. So if you're building a job report, you can just pick up whatever fields, and you can see, there's a lot of fields within a job, within a client. You can see all of the fields that I've created, so you can see how we can report on any of those and filter it, and there's a lot of flexibility in Xero Practice Manager's reports. I'll open up a couple that I have created. So we've got a VAS jobs, and we'll just review that report. So I've asked for a job report that has VAS September 2015 on it. So it is really important to have a naming convention So I've got a template of all of the job names for everything possible that we do as a job, and the naming is very strict. So I will have the activity, and then I do have the client name. So it's activity date and client name, and that's how I made it consistent right across all of the clients and all of the jobs. So with this report, you can pull it up at any time and you can see where the jobs are up to. So I know, okay, I've got a couple in awaiting information. I've already lodged those. You can pull this report so it doesn't bring up the jobs that have already been lodged that you don't need to worry about. And this is just an example because I don't have that many jobs in this particular demo file. But if you were just wanting to pull up awaiting information, in progress, planned jobs, then you could pull those up and just target those jobs to make sure they get pushed through. The other job, the other report is a report on a particular staff member's jobs. So I've allocated myself, for example, this staff, to all of these jobs. So I can pull this report up and I can see what stages her reports are up to. So again, I can exclude the ones that I don't need to worry about and just target the awaiting information, in progress. And I used to sit down with my staff individually weekly, go through this report and find out what the jobs are up to, why are some awaiting information, why has that one still been sitting there, I saw that 3 weeks ago, or the past 3 weeks. So you're at a top level, you're sort of that helicopter level, you're not actually in the detail of it, but you can get control of your jobs by these reports and just target the things that you need. Okay. All right. So was there any questions we got?
No questions. If anyone has a question, please post it on the community on PB Central, and I'm monitoring that at the moment, so I'll be able to ask on your behalf. If you've, then again, we've got Brad has put up his hand. If you do have a mic and you would like to ask a question, feel free to do that. Brad White, did you have a question? Just pop up your hand if you do, because I can monitor that as well. But no questions at this point in time, Katrina.
All right. So within the job manager as well, you can highlight.
Sorry. Could I just interrupt you? I did see Mohammed's got his hand up. I'll just see what question he has. Go ahead, Mohammed.
Yep, I was just wondering if there's a way to do KPIs so that I can see how my staff are going, for instance.
Yeah, there are the opportunity to do KPIs within the reports, but it's something that we're not going to get into today because it's quite more detailed. And so, but I can post on the PB Central where those reports are. And there's also, under the report builder, there are samples. So there's a whole lot more reports there that you can get KPIs around. And also, when I had my Xero Practice Manager for my business, I had the most detailed practice manager, or the most expensive if you like, but of course being a silver partner it's free. But if you don't have the one that I think is valued about $199, it has leads and the KPI ability. So if you're not sure if you have that one or not, you'd know by the invoice that they send you. If you don't have that one, then go to your Xero manager and ask them to get it, because then you'll get a few more tabs along here, which I don't have because I haven't got the most up-to-date one at the moment. But you'll get leads and more management reporting. So you can have a look at some of these reports. and also the financial reports. In the all reports, you can see you've got invoice analysis, performance reports, so you've got productivity reports there. So you can have a play around with those reports and find out what information that gives you. If it doesn't give you what you need, then you can create your own report.
Terrific. Thank you. Thanks, Mohammed.
Okay, so back at the Job Manager, we can sort by state as well, so you can get a really quick indication of what the states are up to. And if at any time you think, well, somebody has not changed the state, and that you know that it's been pushed through to the tax office or whatever, then you can just change the state from this area as well. So that does that nicely. Down the left-hand side, it also groups it into the states as well, so it's a really quick indication of what things are up to as well.
Katrina,
of course you can't.
Sorry, go on.
Yep. Oh, that's all. Yep.
There's a question, Stephen, if you have a microphone and you'd like to ask the question, then feel free to put up your hand. But Stephen's asked, where do you create the custom client fields? And Stephen doesn't have a mic. Thanks for that.
Okay. I'll do that in a few minutes.
Okay.
I'll just finish your Job Manager and then we'll go there because I think we've got time to do that.
Okay.
Also within this Jobs Manager, we've got recurring jobs, so we can set up, as I mentioned before, if you've got a template, then you can actually set up a recurring job. So this BAS job for that client uses that template and it repeats every 3 months. And the next time that it's going to click into Practice Manager is on the 1st of January. And the same with the session checklist, the monthly one. Next time it hits Practice Manager is on the 1st of December. And you'll get an email notification, or you can set up settings to get email notifications for that as well. So that's really cool to start automating your systems. Okay, so we'll click over to the settings where the custom field. So it's within settings and custom fields. So these are the custom fields that I have already created. And if you go and have a look at the clients, that's where they're all sitting. You can move them around if you wish. You can then create whatever custom fields you like for your contacts and jobs. And to do that, you just press New Custom Field. You choose which one you want. So if you want the phone number and you want it to go on a contact area, then you just save that and that's what will happen. If you wanted to create a, I'll get out of that. If you wanted to create a multi-line text so that you can type in a lot of notes, so you could do that. And again, this is coming from your client manual. You can start typing a lot of information, put it at the client level and save that. And you can probably go down the bottom. No, what's it? What did we call it? Lots of notes, that's alphabetical. So if we don't want it to sit there, then we just go into clients and we want it to sit. What's it going down the bottom? Let's just move it to down the bottom, out of the way. Alright, so then when you get into a client, you can see that multi-level is lots of notes and then you have an opportunity to edit it and it's under that one. So then you can just obviously, yep, so that's how you get one of those type of boxes in there. You just save that. So within the custom fields, There are tick boxes, as I mentioned before, new custom fields. There's dates, links, check boxes. There's a multitude of ways of entering information, headings there as well. Okay, so I think that answers
it does.
the question.
Stephen says thank you.
Okay, now I might have a look at a bit more of the timesheets because I think we've got time. So if I go over to the dashboard, there's a few ways of entering timesheets. So you can enter it from the dashboard and enter your time in here. So this is more of a general way without having to get into opening up a job. So if you like to do your timesheets at the end of the day, you can do it this way. Let's just put in an hour. Again, always put notes on your timesheets. It's just for any extra work. Oh. Save that. You can see down here that the time clicks in. So even if you clicked on to that day, then you can enter in your timesheet again, some more timesheets. So you can do it through the dashboard. If we wanted to edit that particular timesheet, that was the one that we created in the job, speak to ATO, we can add in there and WorkSafe. And we can change the amount as well, the amount of time. So you can see as your week goes along, you can see how many hours you've done for each day. And then you think, well, hang on, I did an hour of training on Wednesday, and you just click into that and add it in on the fly as well without having to be in the job.
Katrina, this, I know I often hear people say with Xero, with the functionality of Xero, you often find you're doing little bits and pieces that because the bank feeds, the way you might just do the bank feeds and then there's something else. And so it's not so much sitting down for 8 hours and doing a session necessarily. It could be something like that, but it's not necessarily. So you can keep adding your little bits and pieces that you work on the file doing a whole bunch of stuff. Would that be right?
Yeah, that's right.
And
if you
keep
go
tracking that.
Yes. Yeah, you can keep adding to it, yeah. Whether you're in the job or on that dashboard there, or one of my staff liked the weekly, so all of her jobs would appear here, and then you would just add, an extra bit of, she took another phone call from them.
Yes.
So that type of thing. Yeah, so it's possible to do that.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so I'll just show you briefly the invoicing as well. So there's several ways of doing your invoicing. You can do it within your job. Just find the job number that I was in. I've got some time on that one. Okay, so this is one way of being able to do an invoice. So it's just within the financial tab. You will see all of your history of your invoicing in here. And then you just do there is a difference between progress invoice and new invoice, but invoicing, there's a lot of learning in an invoice, so I'll just show you briefly what it can do. So we're just going to invoice off the estimated time that you've got in there. So it pulls up time that you've done. So you've done 2.5 hours and an hour on an hour on that. So it'll pull up. You've already got your customised rates in there for your tasks, and so whatever time has been entered into the job will reflect through this invoicing, and then you're just pressing approve. If you like that, if you want to change it, then you can just open up the time in here and change it to 1.5 hours. So you've written some off, so the system will record writing off 1 hour.
Mm.
But you might have wanted to add the extra hour there because the work that she did was actually review rather than entering. That type. So it's quite flexible in doing that. Okay, and then that invoice will synchronise to Xero, as I said, and then any customer payments will be taken off Xero Practice Manager as well. So there's quite a lot in invoicing. There's a lot of options, customising the template, you know, different ways of doing it, fixed fees and those type of things, which we won't have time to cover all here.
Mm.
Okay, so if I just go back to the PowerPoint, because I've got away from myself, did the job settings, reported on your workflow, add timesheets. Right, so the how I would set up Xero Practice Manager, how you would start, it's really important to think about the settings that you want from the start. So you want to know what your organisation is going to be set up for, how it's going to be doing its invoicing, how it's going to track time, what custom fields you want to create, what states you want to use, you know, if you're using the DEBS BAS schedule, the categories that will link into your profit and loss as well. So review your options and decide on those so they're consistent from the start and that you don't have to go back and redo things.
Mm.
The tasks, don't go overboard with them, just keep them to a minimum. And make them really simple to identify and be able to use, that you're not duplicating tasks. So you don't want to put too much detail in. You don't want to say one task is bank reconciliation, another task is you know, review aged debtors. You want to just keep it general to like a bookkeeping task, and that has a certain rate and it invoices out at a certain rate. So don't put too much detail in your tasks, put that in your to-do list.
Right.
Your jobs, again, whether you are going to set them up with a lot of to-do lists or not, that would be a decision that you will make. Invoicing, whether you're going to invoice from Xero Practice Manager directly, so send it straight to the client from Xero Practice Manager. What I did is I like to send it to Xero, pretty it up a bit, and make it similar to, you know, previous invoices that I had done, and also the customization of your invoice, where it's coming from, will reflect on what it looks like. Okay, all right, so let's go back one. All right, so I think that's everything that I wanted to cover.
Mm. So on a so it's important to get the settings and have that right. How long do you think it took you to kind of figure out what you wanted, or was it a little bit trial and error for you at the start until you worked out what worked for your business?
Yeah, it was very much trial and error, because there are no training sessions, and I started it like 5 years ago. So there's no training. There was a lot of videos on what used to be called Workflow Max when I started with it, and it was before Xero purchased it. And I did go away with a group of girls and worked out how we would do this monster, and then changed it several times, and then even came away from the weekend and redid the whole thing. Because the shell you get is not very clear on, you know, how to do it and what to do. So you really need some guidance about what's the best way to set it up. Where do I start before you jump in and then put a whole lot of mess in it, and then have to fix it later.
Yes. After our discussion last week about this, the other thing that what I was impressed with was the the way we ran our businesses was different. Obviously, I didn't have Xero or Xero Practice Manager, and I created the bash schedule, and I had a weekly report, which was also an Excel document, but I needed an operations manager to basically hold it all together. If I wasn't working in pure bookkeeping, it's fair to say that I would have had more time to spend on that, but I think having a process that automates a lot of that, where are we at kind of thing for every client, I think is really important, and I really think the way, the functionality of this is a game changer in the industry, I reckon.
Yeah, I think it's important or beneficial to have it online so that you can access it. And one of the major things when I first started the journey of finding something was the communication. You needed it all in one spot, and I looked at several different databases or CRMs, and none of them had the ability to do so much more. So WorkFlow was not perfect. It ticked a lot more boxes and catered for a bigger percentage than a lot of the others around at that time, and I'm talking CRMs that really nothing is suitable, nothing was set up for bookkeepers. So
Yes.
Xero Practice Manager is one of them that is out there now that is set up for bookkeepers. Admittedly, I think it's good for accountants. I think that's what they're targeting. But I've been able to manage my business and set the systems up and automate it so that I could step away from the business and not have to. I could just be the helicopter.
Yes, which is where, and that's where we want everyone to get to.
That's right.
We want them to be running their business with just touching, as you say, the helicopter view. Once you get to those belts, as you're moving up the business blueprint.
Yeah, that's right. But even to control your own work, when you're the sole person in the business, or you might have a contractor doing part-time hours, you really don't want to be spending your time working out where jobs are up to. I've forgotten this, and I've missed this one. Even a sole person needs something to manage their business.
Yeah, exactly, and it's the kind of stuff that can wake you up at 3 a.m. Bolt upright out of bed, thinking, "Oh my goodness, I've forgotten the whatever it is." I've done that many times.
Yeah, exactly, and that's we're crying out for a system to take that stress away from us and just keep it as consistent as possible and easy to follow. And my staff did enjoy using it, or the to-do list, so that they knew exactly what they had to do. They didn't have to refer back to previous times that they just got in and did it.
Yes.
So it was so much more automated.
And this webinar was always, we couldn't, I mean, it's been fabulous, the information that you've given us as an introduction, I think. And from what I've heard about not only what you've said tonight, but also what I've heard with Xero Practice Manager is that, and it probably leads on to what else you do, and we talked about, and it even says in your logo there, the workshops, training, support and mentoring. If people wanted to take this further and decide that, yes, this could be for them, you do offer workshops around that, don't you?
Yeah, that's right. I'm going to do 2 workshops in December, specifically for the bookkeeper to set up their own Xero Practice Manager. So they'll bring their computer, laptop, and we'll get in and we'll work out what their fields are going to be, how they're going to set up their jobs. I can give them a bulk import, like an Excel spreadsheet that they can bulk import their clients in if they don't have Xero, because Xero will just send them straight in, update their custom fields, look at how their tasks are going to be created, and start creating job templates, recurring the jobs, do all of those things that we've talked about today, and a little bit more as well, linking it to Xero and the AusKey. So I've got a couple of dates, Tuesday the 8th of December and Wednesday the 16th of December. It is in Hyatt, which is in Victoria. But next year I'd like to do it remotely, so it can go national, whether it's in a webinar or just having a lot of screens around the room that we've got, everyone on Skype, so we're all in the one room. Not quite sure. I'm sure some technical person can work that out for me. So perhaps I'll put this link up on the PB Central.
That would be great
as well.
In the same thread that we've started.
Yep.
And also I noticed there's obviously, because it's so hands-on, you do need to limit attendees.
Yeah, that's right. And that's why I've done 2 dates also, because you want to make it more intimate so that I can help each person, because the idea of it is to have their workflow, their Xero Practice Manager set up when they leave. They've got an example, one client, one job, everything's set up so they can replicate that when they go back. And, Christmas is the perfect time to be spending time on on your business in this way.
And a very generous offer too with that discount for licensees. I've got Mohammed's asking or got his hand up. Go ahead, Mohammed. I've unmuted you.
Yep,
go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yep,
great. So I just wanted to check, with this workshop, is it going to be following the Pew bookkeeping method? Like, are we going to be able to get some guidance to make sure that they're both going to be integrated well?
Yes. Yeah, that's the purpose of it, yes. Yep.
Excellent.
And
that was the main question.
Okay.
Yeah. And you'll customise it to, your jobs and checklists and stuff like that. So
yes.
Yep.
Now we've got a little bit of time left. If anyone has any burning questions about this, now's your time to put up your hand if you've got a microphone, or post your questions online on PB Central. I'll go ahead, Katrina, and just mention the other things that you have available also.
Yeah, okay. I currently am mentoring bookkeepers. We do it on a fortnightly Skype call, so that fast tracks your growth. So we'll discuss, it's like a 12-step program, or there's 12 steps involved in it. So we discuss anything from HR to systems, to growth, like managing your growth, your profitability. There's a lot involved that we can discuss and just fast track your growth so that you are getting the most out of your business without having to work in it so much.
Yes.
Lots of strategy sessions, just if you wanted to just chat for an hour or so to talk about, clarify your goals. If you're not quite sure whether you are in this business or not in this business, taking it seriously or not, we can talk through that. I'll continue doing workshops and webinars next year, and I've got a Facebook group, and I've just created the Facebook page.
And post that on the community as well at the same time, Trina.
And I've actually just created a Xero Practice Manager group.
Oh, yeah.
So people have questions about Xero Practice Manager, and people are starting their journey with it, then we can all help each other.
Yeah, great idea. Yeah, and just to remind me, I think I've, as you know, I've already referred several licensees to you for different sessions. Was it Lisa Stoneham was one of them, ones that?
Yes.
Yeah, she's online at the moment. Lisa, I've just unmuted you. Do you have a microphone?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to just say a little bit about your experience with Katrina when she helped you?
Yes, certainly. A few months ago, I was in the process of setting up my fixed packages for all my bookkeeping and payroll services, and I got into it. I was doing the fast track Your Xero with Mel Power at Xero, and I had an idea of what I wanted to do, but I couldn't quite get it to work, and I wasn't sure what was suitable for me and what wasn't. So I spent a couple of hours with Katrina. We sat down, we went through exactly what I wanted to offer, what sort of pricing sounded reasonable or not, because I had no idea what to charge, what people would pay, whether I should, and what I was worth charging. And I came away with that session with it 90% done, so I just had to tidy up a few things, which I sent back to Katrina, and she told me, yes, you're on the right track, and I was able to get to market quite quickly. Otherwise, I would have just kept going on round in circles for months trying to do it.
Yeah. Yep. So you'd recommend Katrina's
Great session.
sessions?
Yes, certainly. It helped me a great deal. It probably saved me a lot of time. I probably would still be trying to figure out now if I hadn't have gone to Katrina to get sorted out.
Yeah, yeah. And I didn't hesitate to recommend Katrina, as I said, to several licensees. Thank you, Lisa, for that feedback. That's always good to hear. Well, I think if there's no other questions and no hands up, I think I can't see anyone else with their hands up. Thank you, Katrina, again. Our next webinar will be February 2016, and that's Christmas will be done and dusted by then. It'll be bass on again. But let's enjoy the end of the year. Thank you again, everyone, for taking out time out of your busy schedule with it right at the pointy end of the bass on period. And we will see you all in 2016. And I haven't decided what webinar we're going to have then. Feel free to send me an email with any comments or suggestions about the content. But thank you again, Katrina. That was really helpful and gives everyone a starting point of how to work out this Xero Practice Manager. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I really enjoyed it.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And feel free to post your feedback, guys, on PV Central. That would be really helpful for Katrina and for us to make sure that we're hitting the mark. Thank you all very much. Bye for now.